Stop. No matter what you're doing right now, stop. What I'm about to say isn't for everyone listening, it's for you. Something happened in your journey that the world called rejection, but what you felt as a deep cut was actually a divine repositioning for the union you've been searching for. You spent years believing you were being left behind, that the doors closing were signs of disapproval, but the truth is, you were being guarded. What you lived through wasn't a detour, it was a rigorous selection process. By the end of this conversation, you're going to recognize the 5 clear signs that prove your time of isolation has come to an end. You'll understand, without a shadow of doubt, why the people who walked away from you no longer belong in your new chapter. And more than that, before this moment closes, I'm going to speak a direct declaration over your life. The very reason you were led to this broadcast right now. Stay with me because every word here is a brick in the foundation of what you're about to build. You've been feeling an exhaustion that doesn't come from physical work, but from the soul. You've noticed that when you try to explain to people what you're feeling, the words lose their meaning, or they simply can't hear you. For months, maybe years, you've been waking up with sudden clarity in the middle of the night, as if something were trying to hand you a map. But when you wake up, the main detail slips through your fingers. You notice that conversations that once nourished you now feel empty, echoing a past that no longer fits in your present. There are days when the loneliness is so thick you wonder if you've been forgotten by fate, but I'm here to tell you that this forced distance was your greatest protection. It was the universe's way of making sure you didn't enter your next level, carrying weights that weren't yours. Your fingers typing those 3 numbers are your way of saying yes to the truth that sets you free. It's your conscious agreement that the overload is over and that you're ready for the next step. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling. Type 888, then come right back to me. The reason you still feel the weight of rejection isn't because you were rejected. It's because you keep staring at the place where you were left behind. You're still carrying the posture of someone who has to prove their worth to people who never had the ability to see who you really are. That's your diagnosis. You've been operating from a need for validation, seeking approval in corridors that were already blocked by a higher purpose. Your current block isn't a lack of opportunity. It's your attachment to the pain of what was denied. You're trying to force your way into an environment that, if you entered today, would be too small for the union God has already designed for you. As long as you're looking backward, waiting for someone to recognize your value, you'll remain blind to what's being prepared ahead of you. You have to understand, when the door closes, the goal isn't to punish you. It's to make sure you don't waste your strength in a place that can't sustain your destiny. You've been trained not to accept crumbs, but out of habit, you still act like you're hungry. Your positioning has changed, but your mind still lives in the desert of waiting, and that's where the game has to turn. Your union isn't something you chase. It's something that reaches you the moment you stop begging for human recognition. Consider for a moment the image of an orchard in the middle of winter, where the ground looks barren and life seems to have completely withdrawn. You look at the trees and see only bare branches, no sign of buds, not a trace of fruit, and any outside observer would say nothing will ever happen there again. For years, that's exactly how you felt. You lived through a silent cultivation, a time when the surface of your life offered nothing to the world, but the most important work was happening underground. While you lamented not seeing results, not seeing the harvest, not seeing the recognition you expected, your roots were sinking deep into fertile soil, anchoring themselves in an identity that doesn't depend on external seasons. You weren't being forgotten, you were being stabilized. The silence that surrounded you wasn't a punishment. It was the soil you needed, so that when the time of your union arrived, you wouldn't be knocked down by the first storm that came along. It's essential to understand that what you interpreted as human rejection was actually a surgical protection from something that never belonged to your destiny. That door closing, that forced distance from people you loved, that abrupt cut-off from opportunities that seemed perfect, all of it was a deliverance disguised as loss. If you had gotten what you wanted back then, you'd be stuck today in a structure that couldn't breathe, that couldn't support the scale of what's being brought into your life right now. The rejection you suffered was the limit heaven imposed to keep you from settling into a place that would become your own prison. Looking back and wishing those doors had opened is the same as wishing you were smaller than you were created to be. Divine protection often comes in the form of a no, in the form of distance, in the form of a loneliness that at first hurts, but is actually the only safe place where you can be prepared for your true harvest. Let this declaration firm up your positioning for what's coming. The act of writing these 3 words, with intention and presence, seals your definitive transition from bitter waiting to ripe harvest. What was denied by man does not diminish what was ordained by the Creator. So type, "I am ready," and come right back to me. The solution to your pain isn't the achievement of something new. It's the unconditional return to your original identity, letting go once and for all of that desperate thirst to be validated by those who couldn't see you. You've spent too much time trying to explain who you are to people who decided not to listen. You've wasted precious energy trying to prove your worth to those whose hearts were already closed to your purpose. From today on, your peace is no longer tied to the opinion of those who don't walk on the same frequency as you. Your return is an act of sovereignty. You come back to yourself, to the authority that was already given to you, and you realize you no longer need external applause to sustain the truth of your journey. You are not what they said. You are not what they omitted. You are not what they ignored. You are who you always were, even before going through all this refining process. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already recognized as truth, let your like be your wordless amen. Don't do it as a mechanical gesture or as part of a metric, but as a deep agreement between what was revealed here and the certainty that now lives inside you. It's a silent gesture from someone who acknowledges that what was said isn't a theory. It's a mark, the naming of a reality you now accept to carry with dignity. There is someone in your life who needs to hear exactly this word tonight, someone who has been carrying the weight of an expectation no one else seems to see. You know that person, the one who has been working with quiet dedication, who has stayed whole, even when recognition keeps passing them by, who carries in their eyes the mark of a waiting that seems to have no end. That person's face just came to your mind as I was speaking. Don't ignore that image. Your role isn't just to receive what was delivered, it's to be the channel of that delivery for someone still trapped in the pain of rejection, not understanding that this distance was actually the preparation for a new season. Send this content to that person. Don't do it as a casual recommendation. Do it as an act of giving, like someone passing along a key that was just found. Maybe that person needs to know today, through your voice, that what they called abandonment was only the space the Creator opened so they could finally find their true place. Before we reach the end of this cycle, There's one final statement you need to engrave into your own story. Before this moment turns into memory, you need to anchor your new reality in the present. Don't type this as a wish. Don't write it as if you're just hoping something will change. Type it like someone signing a contract, like someone declaring before the invisible that the season of doubt is over. The agreement that formed between your spirit and the truth, revealed in these minutes, is not a suggestion, it's a naming. When you write this, you end the season of begging for affection or for opportunities that weren't yours. You assume the authority of someone who understands that rejection wasn't your end. It was the filter that removed everything that wasn't up to the level of your purpose. Write it slowly. Feel the weight of each letter. Let the movement of your hands be the reflection of the authority that now governs your journey. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Every step you've taken up to now, every tear shed in the dark, and every door that closed in your face were not accidents. They were steps. You are no longer adrift in a sea of uncertainty. You are positioned on a course that was laid out before you were even born. Your new place is not a geographic destination or a social position. It's a state of spirit, an unshakable posture of someone who knows they don't need permission to inhabit the space reserved for them since the foundation of the world. The rejection you faced was not a sign that you weren't good enough. It was a preservation mechanism God used to remove from your life everything that deep down knew it couldn't keep up with the level of your next season. When the doors closed, when people walked away, and when silence became your only companion, you felt like you were losing something essential. But in hindsight, you start to realize that emptiness wasn't an absence of purpose. It was the creation of space. Your destiny demands an integrity that cannot survive in environments where you have to shrink yourself to be accepted. The pain of exclusion was actually a divine filter, ensuring that when the true union arrived, you would be clean of any residue of human validation. There are clear signs that this preparation ran deep. Have you noticed that over the last few months, your tolerance for shallow conversations has drastically dropped? Have you noticed that when you try to go back to old patterns of behavior or friendship, you feel a strangeness, like you're wearing clothes that no longer fit? That's because your frequency has changed, and what once felt like a place of rest now feels like a claustrophobic prison. If you've been feeling this urgency to withdraw, to seek silence, to disconnect from the noise that once brought you security, know that this is not social isolation. It's your spirit preparing for the harvest. You've been placed in a season of refinement, where the only feedback that matters doesn't come from outside, but from that small, steady voice that has been guiding your steps even when you couldn't see the horizon. To confirm that this cycle of overload and approval-seeking is coming to an end, I want you to take a short pause. Breathe deeply, let the tension out of your shoulders, and recognize that the struggle is over. It's not just a number, it's the mark of your decision to let go of the burden that isn't yours. By typing 888, you are declaring that the season of purpose scarcity is over and that you are open to the abundance of the union God designed for you. As soon as you do that, come right back so we can continue descending into the deeper truth. The posture you've been holding lately, that tendency to put yourself on the defensive or to try to prove your worth through excessive work or extreme sacrifice, is what has been blocking the clear vision of what's already ready for you. You still operate under the belief that you need to build your own bridge, that you need to convince the universe or people of your importance. But the union God ordained is not something you build, it's something you receive. The block exists because while your hands are busy trying to hold on to the past, they aren't free to receive the new. You've been acting like someone who fears scarcity, when in reality you're sitting at a banquet that was prepared while you were still in the desert. Imagine an orchard that went years without bearing fruit. From the outside, it looks like an abandoned lot, a place forgotten by rain and care. But beneath the ground, the work never stopped. The roots were deepening, searching for water sources no surface observer could see. The cultivator knows that if the tree bore fruit before the roots were fixed in the rock, it would fall at the first gust of wind. You have been that tree. The season of apparent barrenness you lived through was not abandonment. It was the building of a root system capable of sustaining the weight of the glory that will come over your life in the next phase. Your union will be fruitful because your roots are now planted where no one else had the patience to dig. Human rejection, which caused you so much suffering, was only the instrument used to get you to stop seeking nourishment from shallow sources. Imagine someone tried to put you in a small pot when your purpose required the fertile soil of an entire field. When you were rejected, it wasn't because you were too small, it was because the container they wanted to put you in was too small to contain what you carry. What looked like a loss was your deliverance from a life of limitations. Let this declaration firm up your positioning. Type it with conviction, then come back to me. The solution to the anguish you felt isn't in finding new strategies or trying to better adapt to others' desires. The solution is the absolute return to your original identity, the one that existed before the world told you who you should be or what you should achieve to be someone. You don't need external validation to be who you already are. When you unlearn the need to be approved by those who don't know your calling, you finally become invincible. The union God ordained for your life does not depend on who accepts you or who denies you. It depends only on your obedience in inhabiting your true place. If what we've discussed here today made something inside you align, allowing peace to replace restlessness, let your like be your wordless amen. It's not about metrics or numbers. It's a silent gesture of agreement that what was revealed here found an echo in your inner truth. As you reflect on that, I sense the face of someone very specific crossing your mind right now. Think of that person you know, someone who has been living in deep silence, someone who has been working with a diligence no one notices, someone carrying a weight that seems to have no end. That person needs to hear what you heard. Send this message to them, not as advice, but as a delivery, a ministry of recognition you perform for someone who is also waiting for the seal of their union. We're almost at the end of this moment, and there's one last thing that needs to be engraved into your consciousness. Don't do it like someone who hopes, but like someone who recognizes a reality that has already been established in the realm of the spirit. You are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions. You are no longer the leftovers from the table. You are the one who was set apart. From today on, your life is no longer dictated by the fear of rejection, but by the certainty that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Type these words now. Feel the weight of each letter, and let this affirmation be the definitive seal of your new cycle of existence. What you lived through, that feeling of being set aside, that the world couldn't see the value of your offering, was not a detour. There is an invisible architecture in your journey that only now, at this stage of maturity, begins to reveal its true lines. When recognition was delayed, it wasn't because your effort was insufficient. It was because your destiny required a preparation that could only be forged in the silence of distance. You were removed from the company of those who couldn't sustain your frequency, so that in solitude you could learn to sustain your own essence. It's as if, all this time, an orchard was being cultivated inside you. While others looked at the surface, seeing only dry ground, the roots were descending to depths no one else dared to reach. A tree whose roots are not deep can withstand a breeze, but would never survive the storm that separates those who are called from those who are merely spectators. And that storm, that apparent rejection you faced, is what gave you the stability that now sustains your new phase. Your detachment is not a form of bitterness, it's a form of freedom. Notice that when someone or something pulls away, it's not taking a blessing from you, it's clearing the ground so the new can sprout. Your posture, which once was that of someone asking permission to exist, is shifting to the posture of someone who understands their own authority. You no longer need to convince anyone that your path is legitimate. The legitimate union that was ordained for your future does not depend on human approval, nor on the permanence of those who couldn't recognize your essence back then. Understanding this is what changes the vibration of your waiting. You stop looking backward with the question of why and start looking at the horizon with the certainty of who. You are the one set apart for the purpose. You are the one who survived the pruning so the fruit would come with greater abundance and quality. This transition from waiting to harvest is a moment of extreme sensitivity. What you're feeling now, this impulse to finally take your rightful place, is the proof that your preparation is complete. The wounds of the past, which once seemed like marks of defeat, now reveal themselves as scars of a silent victory. They prove that you were in the fire and were not consumed. They prove you were tested in abandonment and did not become bitter. Instead, you became deeper, more attentive, more aligned with the rhythm the universe dictates for its own. Don't try to rush this process of recognition. The harvest is in no hurry because it is inevitable. When you stop fighting to fit into places designed for people smaller than your mission, your true place appears naturally. It's a meeting of frequencies. It's the law of what is yours coming toward you without you having to force the door. Consider every moment of uncertainty you faced as training in patience. Every time you had to withdraw, it wasn't a punitive isolation. It was a retreat of protection. Imagine what would have happened if you had been accepted where you didn't belong. You would have limited yourself to a small life, operating with energy that wasn't yours, serving a purpose that didn't carry your seal. Rejection was actually a service done to you. It kept you from blending into the crowd and preserved your original flame. And now, with the clarity that time has given you, you can see that every closed door was actually a narrowed path so you wouldn't get lost in the vastness of opportunities that didn't match your spiritual lineage. What is yours has been waiting for you with the same intensity with which you waited for the moment to be who you really are. There is no more need to prove anything. Your existence alone is the complete validation that you were chosen for something that goes beyond what your physical eyes can measure at this exact second. What happened to you, this feeling that the gears of destiny have finally aligned, is not an accident. It's the harvest beginning to manifest. If at any point in this journey you felt the weight on your shoulders was too heavy, if there were days when loneliness felt like a sentence, I ask you to take a pause now. Breathe deeply and feel the air fill your chest. By typing these digits, you are declaring that the time of overload is over and that you accept the lightness of your new position. 888 is the frequency of abundance that surpasses everything you've lived through up to now. Type it now without hesitation and turn your attention back to me. This transition is the moment to harvest the fruit of the roots you extended in the dark. Imagine an orchard where the trees, for years, seemed stagnant. On the outside, nothing changed, but beneath the ground, the root system was strengthening in a way that no storm could ever uproot. You lived through that time of silent cultivation. You were shaped in the absence of validation so that when recognition came, it wouldn't depend on anyone, only on your own structure. What seemed like human rejection was actually the divine hand protecting your destiny. Let this recognition firm up your position. The act of declaring this is the seal of your awakening. Type it and come with me. You are returning to your original identity. That is the path of union. Your value is not in what you do, but in what you are. There is no need to seek approval from those who don't have the vision to see what you carry. Your seal is authentic, and your union, the purpose God ordained for this season, is already in motion. If the truth of these words echoes as a deep confirmation, let your like be your wordless amen. It's not about metrics or numbers. It's about our spiritual agreement that what was said here is the truth about your life. Look around you, mentally, at those you know. There is someone who carries the same mark as you, someone who has been faithful even when the desert seemed endless, someone who works with diligence while the world around them seems not to notice. If that person's face has just come up, send this message, not as a suggestion, but as a delivery. Maybe that person needs to hear that the isolation is over, that rejection was a positioning, and that the time of waiting has come to an end. Be the channel of this confirmation. Before this moment closes, I need you to make a final decision, not as a request, but as a decree. Type "I am the chosen one" in the comments. Let these words be the signature of your spirit in the record of this new season. It is your final acceptance that the waiting is over and that you are ready to live what was ordained for you. It is sealed. Attention! You need to prepare yourself now. I have prepared material for those who doubt their own calling from God and still do not have confirmation. Are you one of the chosen? We'll give you that clarity. These are the 7 signs of the language of the calling, marks of God in the story of every chosen one, so you can reread your story and recognize the purpose sealed over you before the foundation of the world. Stop calling coincidence what is actually a calling. Stop silencing the sacred restlessness. Stop postponing the answer you feel. Your window is closing, and a chosen one who does not recognize the calling does not walk in purpose. More than 10,000 people have already read the 7 signs and received the conviction they had been seeking for years. They were just like you. They felt something no one understood. They lived in silent doubt, and they discovered it was real. And it had a name. The offer is open only this month. Access the link in the pinned comment now before doubt steals another year from your calling.